I hate news, man. I hate, like, places like the Daily Mail. But yeah, so I don't understand how people keep crying about Keir. He's doing everything they want. I've got legitimate concerns about immigration, okay? That's me. Me and me only. The sole, true, free-thinking centrist. It is a right-wing conspiracy theory. Yes. That is what two-tier justice is. Very stupid way of running a criminal justice system. Very stupid way of running prisons. And that's what everyone's losing their mind about and saying it's two-tier justice. It's crazy. It's absurd. So, guys, okay. Keir Starmer was getting absolutely odd on Twitter yesterday. Okay. Because he made a tweet celebrating the end of Ramadan. People hated it. Which, I mean, like, you know, personally, I would like to see, like, no religious holidays being celebrated by the Prime Minister. I'm a very big separation of church and state guy, honestly. I would honestly rather not have any of this promoted by a Prime Minister or anything. You know, it should be, the government should have a purely, like, clinical, detached approach to all religious holidays. Where they just, like, they're just, like, all everything religion. Where it's just, like, they're purely there to just, like, allow for freedom of religion. And not side with anything or support any holiday or anything like that. It should be, like, pure, like, dispassionate, detached engagement. That's what I think, personally. So, on one hand, I do kind of get the complaints that Keir celebrated Ramadan, made a tweet about Ramadan, but didn't tweet about any other holidays. It's like, the point there is obvious. It is just like a, like, woke, whatever that means, attempt to say, like, hey Muslims, it's okay, guys. It's okay, Muslims. That's basically what it was. Now, that's not enough to get me particularly angry about it. So I didn't really care that much. But today, I think it started making a bit more sense. Well, you say he's feeding the problem. I think it made a bit more sense. Thank you, Ico, for the raid. This made a bit more sense today. When you saw what happened next. Okay? So yesterday he tweets, Ramadan's ending. He goes, Eid Mubarak. You know. He posts this. But today, Keir wrote an article for the Daily Mail. He wrote an op-ed for the Daily Mail. So I think, I think he's like, Muslims, love you guys. And then the next day it's like, Daily Mail article. Guys, don't hate me. Don't hate me. I'm about to do something crazy. Don't hate me. Yeah, so thank you for the raid, Ico. Thank you, Ico. Okay, so let's read this. Let's read Keir Starmer's Daily Mail article. Believe me, I get it. You are right to be angry about illegal migration, sorry. Keir Starmer writes, okay. I know many of you are angry about illegal migration. You're right to be. British people are compassionate and fair-minded. But we all pay the price for insecure borders. From the cost of accommodating migrants to the strain on our public services, it is a question of fairness, a basic question of fairness. And don't think for one moment it's a good outcome for illegal migrants either. So many of these desperate people are the victims of appalling exploitation. So believe me, I get it. Which is why at the heart of our promise of change is a promise to restore your security. Securing our borders and smashing vile people-smuggling gangs is one of the most important responsibilities I will ever have as your Prime Minister. Those on the fringes of British politics thrive on this insecurity, but their offer is hollow. I opposed the Tories' Rwanda scheme. This was a scheme where the Tories were going to basically deport asylum seekers to Rwanda until their applications were processed. Cost an insane amount of money. They only had capacity for a few hundred people to be sent there at a time. And if they committed a crime while they were there, they would be immediately sent back to the UK. So it was the absolute most retarded idea, like, ever conceived. It was totally retarded. They sent one guy left on a plane, I think. Is Rwanda still a Commonwealth? I think so, yeah. I think so. It's because it was gimmick design sound tough and get headlines, but because it was a hollow pledge to working people, and he wanted to go, as well. You had to. That was the other. It was like people volunteered to go. So stupid. It's just like it's like such a retarded scheme. Because it was a hollow pledge to working people which had no prospect of ever being fulfilled. A slogan isn't a solution. Instead, it undermines trust in mainstream politics as a force for good. I know some of you will read this with skepticism and assume that nothing can or will be done. I am determined to prove the opposite. Bunch of terrifying, scary pictures of migrants. Oh my god, guys, aren't you so scared of all the brown people here? Yeah, I hate news, man. I hate like places like the Daily Mail when they just do shit like this, where it's just like the most obvious loading in the world. It's just like, oh, look at all these Syrians on this boat. It's like, all right, man, we get it. We get it, man. I accept my approach is not glamorous, but it's how I do business. Sleeves rolled up, getting the details right, doing the hard graft. This plan is drawn on what I know works from my years of experience as our country's chief prosecutor. That international cooperation is the foundation of securing Britain's borders. When I was the director of public prosecutions, we worked across Europe and beyond to foil numerous terrorist plots, saving thousands of lives in the process. It is obvious to me that we should treat organised immigration crime in the same way. That's why today I'm bringing together representatives from more than 40 countries in an unprecedented international effort. We're pulling every possible lever, from the supply chain for small boats to illicit finance and social media, with Meta, X and TikTok all joining the summit today. Already, our new approach is delivering results. Germany will strengthen its laws. France said it wants to change its laws so law enforcement officers can deal with small boats in shallow waters. Germany will strengthen its laws against those who facilitate smuggling to the UK so we can break into warehouses storing boat parts. A joint task force with Italy is hitting smugglers' finances. This collaborative approach is transforming border security at home. We inherited the most extraordinary disconnect between policing, our border force, and our intelligence agencies. I was shocked. That's why I've created our new £150 million Border Security Command, together with new powers and new criminal offences. By redirecting staff and resources from the Rwanda scheme to enforcement, we're removing illegal migrants at the highest rate in 8 years. We've taken down 18,000 social media accounts. We're imposing sanctions that treat people smugglers like terrorists. We've ramped up raids on illegal working, and today we're setting out plans to close a loophole that allowed businesses to avoid checks on those in short-term or zero-hour roles so that Britain is no longer a soft touch for illegal working. Me railing off the list of actions isn't what the British people are looking for. I know what people want to know will give them security in their jobs, in their streets, in the promise of opportunities for their kids. I can promise we will. It isn't gimmicks or more populism that will solve this problem. It is practical government. That is the change this Labour government brings. That's how we'll smash the gangs, secure our borders, and restore your faith in the ability of mainstream politics to deliver for you. So, that's the article he wrote today, and that's in the middle of an immigration summit he was holding with a bunch of other countries, like I mentioned there. And yeah, so we've got the highest removals in 8 years. There was a surge over the last 3 months of entries, though. And Conservatives are desperately trying to blame the fact they scrapped the Rwanda scheme when the Labour came in for the reason why entries have surged. They think a couple hundred people being voluntarily housed in Rwanda, where they would be sent home from if they ever committed a crime, while their application was processed, they think that scheme was a deterrent for illegal immigrants, and that's why it surged in the last 3 months, is because Labour got rid of the Rwanda scheme. And that's what they're desperately trying to That's what they're desperately trying to push right now. So I don't really understand how people can keep bitching about Starmer. It feels like he's doing everything people want. Illegal immigration. He's the other thing happened today. Oh, we'll pull this up as well. just on top of this, because right-wingers keep bitching about Starmer, this happened today too. So, you know how we were talking about the sentencing guidelines stuff that everyone was blowing way out of proportion, where basically all it said was that a bunch of criteria, including anyone getting a first-time offence or first chance of a custodial sentence and stuff like that, anyone with a sentence under 2 years, anyone under 25, anyone with a substance issue, anyone with a mental health issue, all those criteria, and one of them was ethnic minorities or religious minorities. And it would, what these criteria were for were that if you were going to trial, you would get a pre-sentence report made to try and counteract bias in sentencing against these people. Was not two-tier justice, was not a right that you're given as a brown person that you don't get as a white person. Nothing even remotely nothing close to that in any way. Now, people are so upset about that because it just said ethnic minority somewhere in there, that Keir Starmer actually took up for it. He actually took up for it. And he said, no, we shouldn't codify anything to do with protecting ethnic minorities, actually, for some fucking reason. Which I kind of disagree with him on, to be honest. I don't think there's any reason. But you could probably rewrite this in a way to where it still catches everyone you want it to catch, but doesn't explicitly talk about ethnic minorities. There probably is a way to do that. So if they want to do that, that's fine with me. But Keir took up for it. Keir was like, no, we're not doing anything even close to two-tier. That will not happen. And he took up for it. Obviously, it wasn't even a government thing. It was coming from the Sentencing Council. And he's taken up for it. Said he was going to legislate to overrule it. And now the Sentencing Council, in response, have delayed it. They've said, we're not putting it into effect yet until the government can get legislation through. So basically, the pre-sentence report is it's an accounting of the facts of the case, and recommendations about sentencing based on that is meant to make sure that sentences are free of bias, right? So you often get, or make sure the sentence is the best for the person at least. So you get them with pregnant women. That's a big one. Pregnant women, people facing their first offence, stuff like that. They get pre-sentence reports to basically say to the judge, this is a case where it's not entirely clear what the best thing to do is. Here's the factors, and here's like an analysis of the factors. And so, basically, because sentencing is judge discretion, a lot of it, right? There's guidelines, and there's precedent, but it comes down to judge discretion. It's a judge making a decision about what is best for this person and what happened in the crime, right? So a pre-sentence report is meant to be an analysis of the crime and of the criminal that points you towards like the best options for sentencing. And that there were a list of criteria that were put in by the Sentencing Council where basically it said, in these cases, a pre-sentence report is pretty much always necessary. The judge can still deem it unnecessary if they're sure of something. They can deem it unnecessary, but as a guideline, all of these groups should generally get a pre-sentence report. And I just don't see how anything besides socioeconomics and prior offences make a noteworthy difference. Well, because different groups, like even ethnic minority groups, have disparities in sentencing, right? If there's sentencing disparities playing out in the data across like a broad scale, then putting in a report that makes the judge account the facts and have a recommendation based on the facts of the case can help to bring that in line, right? It's to combat bias, right? Because obviously if you've got a system that's always panning out in a way that seems to favour certain groups, that would imply that there's some bias happening at the discretion level, right? As long as the law is all set up the same for those groups. Well, I mean, you can't know what leads to the bias, right? That's the point. You can see the bias in the statistic. You can see the bias play out in the data. But you can't divine, like, what's leading to the bias. Yeah, I would almost agree, firstly. Like, why not just make pre-sentencing reports pretty much standard? I would when would you not want a judge to get a pre-sentence report? I don't know how expensive they are. It could be that there is actually cost associated, and if you had every crime get a pre-sentence report, or every potential custodial sentence get a pre-sentencing report, then it would be an insanely cumbersome cost or something. I don't know. But yeah, the whole point, the idea wasn't in any way, and at no point was it suggested that it was going to be that ethnic minorities get lighter sentences. That was never the claim. Because the issue is that ethnic minorities get... Dude, my camera keeps going out of focus. It's driving me fucking crazy. Dude. Fuck! Okay. At no point was it going to be like two-tier justice this way. It wasn't in any way... Ethnic minorities should get lighter sentences. Oh, we need to be sensitive to ethnic minorities, so we're giving them lighter sentences. It's ethnic minorities get harsher sentences already. How do we counter that? And the solution they came up with was, before a judge sentences, give them a accounting of the facts and recommendation in a report. That's the point, right? But people want to pretend that white people would get worse treatment from the system because of the pre-sentence reports, based on literally nothing. But yeah, so I don't understand how people keep crying about Keir. He's doing everything they want. Like this will literally show. Keir is going to show whether it is in any way possible to actually make the populist right retards feel heard. Whether any of the things they say are actually true. Because right now, he is literally doing the, I'm listening to your concerns, and I'm going to make sure I run the country in a way that isn't totally raping you. That's what he's doing right now. He is playing nice. He is doing the thing that all the right wingers bitched and cried that Democrats should do and all this shit. That is what he's doing. He's doing the, guys, I get it. I understand you've got legitimate concerns about illegal immigration. You've got legitimate concerns. I'm going to help you. That's what he's doing. You've got legitimate concerns about sentencing in the UK. I'm going to sort it. So we'll see if they believe any of what they say. I doubt it. I think it is actually just, it's a... Keir doesn't give them the feeling of exacting punishment and retribution on the people they don't like. Keir is a statesman. Keir is a politician. A prosecutor. He doesn't give them that feeling of killing your enemies. That feeling of embarrassing your enemies like Farage does. And because everyone that is on board with this shit is not actually on board with it for any logical or intelligent reasons, it's pure emotional, like they feel like losers in life, so they need a winning figure to rally around. That's what they'll do. That's what I think personally. But we'll see. We'll see. I truly don't believe any of these people have any actual legitimate concerns about illegal immigration. I've got legitimate concerns about immigration, okay? That's me. Me and me only. The sole, true, free-thinking centrist. I wonder if there's any, let me check my right-wing YouTube account. My content farming account. Okay. Let's see this.
Right, so basically,
They admitted two-tier justice exists, is the name of this video, okay? It's a Lotus Eaters video. Excellent stuff. We love it. We love a bit of Lotus Eaters. Let's see it.
I think we are looking upon an admission that two-tier justice exists from the government. And
it's very safe to say because they've been all but explicit about it, haven't they?
They have been explicit about it, but also they always said that people who use these words are far-right extremists. So the
government's now a far-right extremist.
It has
Shabima Mahum is that far-right, but now she's an extremist far-right.
Unironically, two-tier justice is just like it is just a right-wing conspiracy. It literally is. It's not borne out in the data. It's not borne out in the legislation. It's just not true. It is a right-wing conspiracy theory. Yes, that is what two-tier justice is. Yeah, it did start with the riots. Yes, it started with the riots.
Rather than just being an extremist in some people's minds.
Right, so basically the Sentencing Council for England and Wales has issued some guidelines with respect to sentencing that take ethnicity into account to an extent that was presumably that's much greater than the extent it was taken before.
It's also...
They've got no idea what they're even talking about. Take ethnicity into account, presumably to a more extent than it was before. Presumably to more of an extent than it was before. Okay, retard.
Worth mentioning that it was already quite bad.
Yes.
Like, you could just eyeball sentences.
Whoa, I didn't know you do politics stuff. I always see you doing drama, says Short Fat Otaku in the chat. Well, guys, you know, there is actually a channel where I do, like, almost entirely politics stuff. It's a lot of politics over there. Now, I don't stream there, but I do post videos. It's called Kuihman. Very important that you go subscribe to Kuihman, guys. In fact, I would do a whole shill here. Guys, we've got, what, 45 likes on the stream right now? 330 people watching. That means it's like 300 people, 290 people who could be liking the stream right now, but haven't. So if you wouldn't mind moving your cursor thumbs up and clicking it, or pressing a thumbs up on your mobile device, that would be hugely appreciated. Now, if you want to take your support one step further, you can donate directly through the Stream Elements link in the pinned chat message. You can also buy a membership to the channel, gift a membership to the channel, gift a whole bunch of memberships randomly throughout the chat, buy a super chat, which will highlight a message and read it on TTS, or buy a super sticker, which is a YouTube image or GIF that will be highlighted in chat, and I'll describe it to you. You can go to discord.gg/Kuihman, twitter.com/Kuihman, or reddit.com/r/Kuihman. Thank you. Also, I'm doing a goal in chat, a 20 super chat goal, 2 hour goal, or we'll do a 2 hour goal. I will be happy. Smile. There we go. Wow. Yeah, I have a video on my second channel talking about Sargon's closeted homosexuality. Very important stuff happening over there. Thank you for the £2. Stairway TOE. Thank you. So yeah, hugely important stuff happening over on the Kuihman channel. We're outing Sargon as a homosexual man.
The news, being, you know, a casual reader of a newspaper, and you could see the differences in sentencing pretty explicitly. You know, the reason everyone noticed this two-tier thing was largely through what they'd seen through headlines, and now the fact that the Sentencing Council's just explicitly admitting it is very significant.
Yes, and I may infuriate you because I don't think that they have particular credibility, but the Labour government says that these guidelines are unacceptable because they support a two-tier system.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
This is a Labour government saying it doesn't support a two-tier system when almost across every aspect of policy and government.
Thank you for the €5, Q.
It is creating a two.
Not on their watch.
Okay, so could you explain to us, please? Please tell us. One example of a way in which Labour is creating a two-tier system where ethnic minorities get a better treatment than white people. Please, one example, please. I would love to hear. Just a single example of how that's happening.
This is a Labour government saying it
we get that.
Support a two-tier system when...
Did you see that Milo tweet about Dennis Prager breaking his spine? I did. 1 minute. Where is it? I actually posted it in Spicy, I think. God's wrath has found Dennis Prager and his many terrible sins. I gather he recently fell out of the shower and severed his spinal column. Paralyzed, quivering, drooling, silenced. Such a freakish accident. Worthy of Final Destination. What to call it but an act of God? Thank you for the $5, Jimberly. Thank you. Yeah, Milo was spitting there. Milo was kind of spitting there.
Almost across every aspect of policy and government, it is creating a two...
Not on their watch. Not on their watch.
Well, so, this is oh, sorry, Steph.
No, please.
This is certainly some red meat to poach from the right, isn't it?
Yes, and also Keir Starmer has started talking about illegal migration and him being particularly unhappy with it. He's not talking about irregular migration, he's talking about illegal.
I think he's had a meeting with Tony Blair because he's been saying, I hear your concerns and I'm taking them seriously, which is like a signature Tony line.
Right, so for me, this shows that there is a significant trend within the world of jurisprudence.
Tony Blair?
of judging according to these principles. And right now they felt that this is the opportune moment to come and provide additional institutional backing and support for these principles, when they're saying that with these guidelines we want you, judges, to adjudicate according to these principles. And essentially this is going to say, it's going to
you and Gamma aren't friends
mention
again.
The oppression calculus, and they're going to give some reports to the judges, especially when it comes to people of ethnic background. And they're going to try to say that because there are several oppressed minorities and ethnicities, all this implicit bias should be taken into account when you're yielding a verdict about the sentence, and perhaps you should be a bit more lenient with so-called oppressed backgrounds.
It's also
that's not, dude. It's not more lenient. Be a bit more lenient. No, it's not about being more lenient. It's about making sure that these sentences that are given to brown people are in line with the ones given to white people. They want everyone to get the same sentences if they have the same situation. That's the point of pre-sentence report.
Bias in psychology seems to suggest that you can't get rid of it, but if you do take measures to try to, it makes your racial bias worse, yes. In that, for example, they exposed people to stereotypes and terminology to avoid, and what it did was it made
Crayon Eaters, that's epic. Thank you for the $6.99, Josh. Thank you.
People more easily recall these terms that they're not supposed to use, which probably means they're more likely to use them.
And the more biased people are, the more necessary the anti-bias section seems to be, at least to people who think that bias is wrong. Right, so we have an article from The Guardian here that says...
But wait, bias in sentencing is wrong. No? Surely you agree with that. Surely you think that everyone, regardless of their race, should be given the same punishment for the same crime in the same circumstance. A Muslim pregnant woman shouldn't be put in prison when a white pregnant woman would be allowed out. And equally, a white pregnant woman shouldn't be thrown in prison when a Muslim woman should be like that. Like, surely that's the sort of thing you agree with, and the sort of thing the pre-sentence report is trying to achieve. Surely you agree with that, right, Crayon Eaters?
Ministers criticized two-tier sentencing changes in England and Wales, and they're saying the guidance aimed at tackling bias and reducing reoffending. How exactly? Puts more emphasis on the need for pre-sentence reports, which give details of the offender's backgrounds, motives, and personal life before sentencing. So my question is, what does this do that the ordinary defense doesn't do?
Well, the ordinary defense comes out and gives you, as a barrister myself, someone who's had to go through the criminal process, both as a prosecutor and as a defender. Oh
god, so many barristers in the UK are so fucking retarded. I can't wait to hear what this guy says.
Is the ability for the defense to raise the issues that support why you shouldn't be sentenced so determinately. If you talk about what happened in your family background,
I literally don't think there's I haven't seen a single barrister on social media.
Talk about the lack of education you have. You might talk about why you were threatened. All of those are elements that you would normally and naturally use. The whole process of the pre-sentence report, when it was created, was to try and ensure that those defendants who were incapable of doing it properly, or to give an opportunity for the court to understand more about an individual, that was created. And to an extent, someone often argued why. Why was this brought in? Now, I can understand it. In many cases, a pre-sentence report was actually helpful to be able to understand what was going on.
Like, they immediately all cops are like, then why are you so against it?
I think for many, many lawyers, they would say a PSO is a useful vehicle. The first question is kind of
yeah, exactly. Firstly, people get mad because I say this. If you're a good lawyer, why aren't you practicing law? Why are you on YouTube instead of in a courtroom? That's my immediate question every time. People get fucking so triggered that you say shit like that. You think lawyers are fucking... You think lawyers don't know that much? You think lawyers don't know about the law? Shut up, man.
philosophically, why was it introduced when you could do this anyway? And why did the courts not listen to what the defendants? And I think really it was because the courts were being encouraged not to imprison people or give certain sentences to certain groups of people. And they couldn't just rely on the defense. They wanted to have a third party. It was like the idea of bringing in quangos. If we can rely on a third party, it's not your fault you didn't do it properly. And it's not us. We're just listening to the pre-sentence report. And that's why this is taking on such an important part of the debate, is because judges and magistrates are almost washing their hands to a certain extent by saying, I'm relying on what's said in the pre-sentence report.
So I think...
okay, well, do we not want... I feel like we generally want that, no? We want judges to make... We want them to make, generally, judgments based on good information and fact that are in line with other sentences for similar acts. The less discretion, the less like, I feel like this person should get lighter. I feel like this person should get more. The better, right?
I think the way a lot of ordinary people think about justice is that it doesn't necessarily matter about these sort of extenuating circumstances. A certain action should have a certain sentence, regardless.
I don't think that's how most people think about justice at all. I don't think that's how most people think about justice at all. That would be an incredibly stupid way to run a prison system. You put. So if someone steals, let's say someone steals, what do they steal? They steal a huge thing of meat. A huge slab of meat from a Tesco. Two people steal a huge slab of meat from Tesco, a huge cut of meat from Tesco. One of them is some brown Muslim kebab shop owner, and he's stealing it to go carve it up and sell it in his kebab shop. The other one is a pregnant woman with an abusive husband who has a shit job, who already has one kid, and she's stealing it for a family. Do we think they should both get the same punishment? You should get the same punishment. That seems like a very retarded way of looking at justice, where you think both those people should get the same punishment. Very stupid way of running a criminal justice system. Very stupid way of running prisons.
Of your reasoning for it, I think that's how I certainly think about that sort of thing, and it seems like a way of...
One should be deported. What if they're a citizen?
Excuses for yourself. Maybe I'm being a bit unsympathetic here, but it does seem like a way of saying, oh, well, I came here on a small boat, it was terrible, it was awful, I've had such a hard time now, I'm really sorry about stabbing that innocent person.
Yes, so my question, I think, I'll phrase it again. What does this put forward that a traditional defense doesn't? Because you're mentioning the specifics of the case, which I'm sure the defense would mention. But it seems to me that...
Yes, the information about the person's life circumstances go on the pre-sentence report, Evil Johnny Bravo, yeah.
This report, if the report is about to say tackling bias, they are going to put forward all the ideological bits. All the woke progressivism within legislation is going to get an extra institutional backing. And let me continue what they say. Under the change, which would come into force on April the 1st, tomorrow, that is. Magistrates and judges would be asked to consult a pre-sentence report before determining whether to imprison someone of an ethnic or religious minority, as well as young adults, abuse survivors, and pregnant women. At present state, black and minority ethnic communities are overrepresented at almost all stages of the criminal justice process in England and Wales.
Portland's one of those seaside towns.
And receive longer sentences than white people. Well, the question why isn't being asked here, but also what is going to happen is that these guidelines are saying we are going to have the woke oppression calculus. We're going to separate the population into groups. We're going to rank them according to who is more or less oppressed. And those who are considered to be among the privileged groups are going to get tougher sentences. This is precisely what this is.
It's an explicit rejection of the rule of law, isn't it?
Yeah. Right. So Keir Starmer took issue with it, and he took issue with several other things. He talked today about illegal migration as being a risk for security and him being very angry about it. He's also very angry about the two-tier system. Right, so let's look at what Keir Starmer has to say here.
Well, look, I'm disappointed in this response, and the Lord Chancellor is obviously continuing to engage on this, and we're considering our response. And, you know, all options are on the table, but I am disappointed at this outcome, and now we'll have to consider what we do as a result.
So he's gravely disappointed.
But he's come out just to, was it just before we came on air, where he actually said now we're going to push an initial legislation to attach to current amendments. Sorry, he's putting an amendment to current legislation in order to try and tackle this issue. How he does that. So he's saying he cares, but I think this is a lot of pressure. As you saw when we were discussing the letter about it,
So is all they're doing is ask them to consult the report and nothing else but meeting a new sentencing metric? Nope, yeah, that's it. That's it. They released a list of criteria in which they consider pre-sentence reports to be generally necessary. A judge can still claim that it's unnecessary and not receive a pre-sentence report. But they released criteria for when it is generally considered necessary to get a pre-sentence report. Those criteria were things like if they're at the risk of their first custodial sentence, if their custodial sentence is going to be under 2 years, if they're between 18 and 25, if they're in an abusive relationship, if they have substance abuse issues, if they have mental health issues, or have at any point had mental health issues, if they're a woman, if they're pregnant, if like there's like a bunch of different criteria, and one of them was from an ethnic or religious minority background. That was one of them. It said if they're from an ethnic or religious minority background, that is one of the times where it's generally considered that you should get a pre-sentence report. And that's what everyone's freaking out about. That's what all these guys are losing their mind about, is that there is a guideline where one of the criteria is being from an ethnic or religious minority background, where you generally should, but don't have to, get a pre-sentence report that informs, doesn't decide, the sentence. And that's what everyone's losing their mind about and saying it's two-tier justice. It's crazy. It's absurd.
The letter makes it very clear that it's all about what the pressure has come from Robert Jenrick. No one else. Just Jenrick seems to have caused this. And I think he's running a bit scared.
Speaking of Robert Jenrick, we have a post of him here saying under two-tier Keir.
Yeah, so here it is, literally here. Under two-tier Keir, that's exactly what's happening. It's completely outrageous. This would enshrine an anti-white and anti-Christian bias in our criminal justice system. A pre-sentence report would normally be considered necessary if the offender belongs to one or more of the following cohorts. At risk of first custodial sentence and or at risk of custodial sentence of 2 years or less, after taking into account any reduction for guilty plea. A young adult, typically 18 to 25 years. See further information below at section 3. Female, see further information below at section 3. From an ethnic minority, cultural minority, and or faith minority community. Pregnant or postnatal. Sole or primary caregiver for dependent relatives. Or if the court considers that one or more of the following may apply to the offender. Has disclosed they are transgender. Has or may have any addiction issues. Has or may have a serious chronic medical condition or physical disability or mental ill health, learning disabilities, including developmental disorders, neurodiverse conditions, or brain injury/damage. Why are white Christians committing crimes in the first place? Yeah, true. True, very true. Good question. What are you meant to be white? What are you committing crimes for? So like, it's like the most insane thing to get upset about. And this guy that's pushing it, Robert Jenrick, by the way, is a literal Disney villain. I've spoken about this before. This guy is a complete Disney villain, scumfuck, wretched piece of shit, man. Where's a good video about this?
The Immigration Minister, Robert Jenrick, he has come under fire. The reason being because there's an asylum processing centre in Kent, right? And I need to make something very clear. This is an asylum processing centre for children, so unaccompanied children. It's not just a random adult one. It's specifically designed for children. And as such, it had some kind of paintings on the wall, like, I don't know, like Mickey Mouse, whatever, like children's paintings. In fact, I've got a picture that I can show you now. The reason it's all kind of kicked off, and I will put this picture up to give you some context as to what we're talking about, is because these pictures you can see, like Mickey Mouse, Tom and Jerry, whatever, the government has now ordered these to be painted over because...
So, Robert Jenrick showed up at this place, saw that this asylum seeker processing centre, exclusively for children, unaccompanied children, had cartoon characters on the wall, and he said, this is too friendly, this is too welcoming, we don't want them to get too comfortable here, and painted over them.
What they're saying is asylum centres should be a law enforcement centre, not a welcome centre. And he wants to have almost kind of a mentality, Reem, which is dissuading people, discouraging people to make that crossing. He has come under a lot of criticism, though, because painting over cartoons is, for some people, a stretch too far. Your thoughts?
This is an absolutely ridiculous thing to do. I mean, they've totally missed the ball here. What the people want, what the public want, is a reduction in the illegal migrants that are coming to this country. They don't want a waste of taxpayer money being spent on covering up children's paintings. That is ridiculous. It feels incredibly callous and cruel in the first instance. And I think that actually the framing of this question is quite interesting. This idea that for somehow, if we have these paintings, it makes that immigrants want to come here more. It makes asylum seekers, children want to come here more often. That's just not the case at all. I think this is quite a cruel policy.
Yeah, but I guess... Well, actually, you tell me your thoughts. I'll tell you mine. Go on.
Well, I think it's stupid, and I think it's callous, and I think most people out there, even though they believe...
So even on GB News, they were slating this. GB News is like our Fox, basically. It's that bad. Maybe even OAN, to be honest. It's not anywhere near as bad as Fox or OAN, to be fair. Nowhere near as bad. But it's our equivalent. Like 2 years ago now. And even they were slating him, being like, dude, this is just like fucking retarded. Right, straight up, like, you just hate kids. You're just like exacting misery on children for the pure purpose of exacting misery on children.
Borders, even though they think the system...
Anyway, we're back on the Lotus Eaters video.
Exactly what's happening. It's completely outrageous. This would enshrine an anti-white and anti-Christian bias in our criminal justice system.
Sounds about right to me, to be honest.
Yes, and he's reacting against Shabana Mahmood, who said there will never be a two-tier sentencing approach under this Labour government.
Well, it's too late for that now, isn't it?
Wait,
I don't know. Do you believe them?
Russell Brand is on GB News now? No, you're joking. No, he's not. Shut up.
No,
just tell us in the comments, tell us in the live chat, do you believe them? Right, so she is proposing here a way to tackle this. The government will introduce legislation to Parliament this week to override independent guidance on how offenders from ethnic minorities should be sentenced. It comes after the Sentencing Council refused a request from Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood to consider...
Talk TV is technically Fox News owned by Murdoch. Yeah, but no one gives a fuck about Talk TV. Also, Talk TV is like that is like proper shitter stuff. It's like next level retards on Talk TV. Russell Brand is on Sky News now for real. No, he's not. What? No, he's not. Russell Brand is blacklisted by any mainstream media because he's a fucking rapist. Okay. So why are Brits against this when the better legal system already has this? Or because they just like spurging out because they saw the word ethnic minority. Like, what? What? Ethnic minority and it's not saying send them all home? What? I can't believe it.
Consider its new instruction for judges. I know. I just don't be...
Dude, the Mike Graham concrete clip. Let's play the Mike Graham concrete clip quickly. This is a total tangent.
Those of you who have been following the Independent Republic for a while will know...
Oh, wait, this is him coping about that afterwards, isn't it?
Mike Graham. Just your screen, unfortunately.
Unfortunately. What do you do for a living,
Well,
Cameron?
I'm a carpenter.
A carpenter, right. So how safe is that for the climate?
Well, I work with timber, which is a much more sustainable material rather than concrete. I also
But you work with
retrofit-
trees that have been cut down then, don't you?
It's a sustainable building practice.
How is it sustainable if you're killing trees?
Because it's regenerative, you can grow trees.
Right. Well, you can grow all sorts of things, can't you?
Well, you can't grow concrete.
You can. See you, Cameron. Cheerio. That was Cameron. He grows trees and then cuts them down and then makes things from them. Brilliant. Marvellous. I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Dude, it's so good. There's literally so many moments like that on Talk TV. It's like non-stop. They're all that dumb. They are all that dumb.
It's going to be a fascinating element because, as I say, for
That was real. That was real. That actually happened. Yes, that's a right-wing TV pundit called Mike Graham. Just getting totally mocked by some dipshit caller, just some lefty caller.
As a PSO, pre-sentence report, is useful, but in so many ways, the idea that it's now here's a judge or a magistrate, we are considering incarcerating somebody, but because they come from one of these three groups, or four if you've added a couple more on there as well, we can't sentence them to prison today because we've got to get a PSO. And why I can't understand why the judiciary or those who are looking at this see this as odd, because what do I go back to we were trying to make jokes about it, but the reality was my grandparents worked in factories, pretty abused in factories in the 90s and 1900s, and their ancestors were all abused. They were pretty much slaves, working for virtually nothing. The miners' families were the same. All over Britain, we could turn around and say we've had abuse from elitist masters who've taken our labour and used it to build their empires and big houses. Why are they excluded? Haven't they got some sort of cultural or historical pain that we remember? We remember what it's like to be in poverty. In the 70s and the 80s, well, maybe not for you guys, to be honest, you're far too young and healthy compared to myself. But we do know what it was like when the lights were out in the 80s. And so why is that excluded as a characteristic that should be considered when I'm doing the crime? And I think that's the real point that's going to impact people in this country about fairness. We're a nation of fairness, and we want to see it being fair to everyone all the time.
Speaking of fairness, it's one thing to talk about fairness in the abstract concept, because everyone will go out and say, we are fair. No, I'm not having a go at you.
We want fairness. That's what the pre-sentence report. That's why they're doing pre-sentence reports for ethnic minorities, because ethnic minorities aren't treated fairly under the current system. Right? That's the idea. There's bias that comes in during sentencing when there's discretion allowed for a judge. They often might make a harsher decision about someone with a different minority background. Someone from a minority background because they're from a majority background, and then they make a judgment because they can't fully empathize with the situation, or it seems different to a British situation, even though it might actually, or a traditionally Christian British situation, I should say, because it seems different to that. They can't quite map on the same pieces. They can't quite feel the same about it. So the pre-sentence report is there to distill that sort of thing and try and cut through it. But that's the point, is to maintain fairness. But it's okay. Look, I'm fine. If they want to get rid of this, it's fine. I think that just make the pre-sentence reports basically recommended for everyone. So yeah, pretty much anytime you're doing this, get a pre-sentence report. That's like career criminal or some shit. Thank you, Pepsi, for the raid. Thank you. Ethnic minorities get treated way better than the angelic white man. Building of worlds... Indeed. Epic. The angelic white man. The Great White Hope.
True, you're absolutely right.
I want to improve to add to what you're saying. The question is how fairness is being understood. So the Aristotelian, for instance, understanding of fairness is completely different to the woke understanding of fairness. The woke understanding of fairness wants to institute differential treatment. Why? Because they say, well, until we are in the position to
It's not about... No, it's about avoiding the differential treatment.
People equally.
Differential treatment happens, and we need to combat the differential treatment. That's what...
State of emergency, and we need to mitigate historical inequalities, and we need to help those who have been historically oppressed.
And,
but
sorry.
yeah,
Go ahead.
No, just to finish. But the way that they are understanding who is oppressed or not, as you mentioned, is entirely arbitrary, which lends support to the view that what they care about is not fairness. What they care about is who is their political friends and who are their political enemies. They want to.
How can you say this when all these people are just like cheering on Trump, like fucking black holing, like memory holing people for talking about Palestine? Like everyone's cheering that shit on. It's like, oh, all the lefties care about is who's their political friends. Dude, you're actually throwing people in the backs of fucking vans right now.
The former harm the
so
latter.
Crazy.
I think a rather oft overlooked point here is that there's a massive amount of hubris here in the notion that they've got a complete understanding of basically human suffering.
Thank you.
This was gonna go to Parry, but he ended too quickly. Digging the lesbian hairdo, bro.
Thank you for the $20, Nate. Hugely appreciate it. Thank you.
But they're basically trying to mitigate for the fact that some people have not had the best shot at life.
Yeah.
And to make these formal judgments saying, okay, these ethnicities, they've had a particularly bad time, but other people perhaps not. White people, you know what, they've had an easy ride of it.
Dude, it's not about, that's actually not what the point is. Dude, it's not. The pre-sentence report does not say, because they're an ethnic minority, you should give them a lighter sentence. That's not the point. It's not the point of the guideline either. Literally not the point.
That's not true.
Why do they have to lie and make it this? It's not what's being said at all. It's just so crazy.
And the arrogance at play here to say that, oh, you know what, these people who have come over and claimed welfare and not worked, they're more persecuted than someone who's worked their entire life for effectively the state.
I don't wear my hair right now, but the thing is, it's just the back. The back. I need to get a cut just because of the back. Like there is way too much going on back here. It's way too far down my neck. There is way too much, just like flickage. You know, it's just not. It's not good.
I see such a mismatch here, but that's not going to be acknowledged, is it? Because they think that they understand the nature of human suffering, which they don't.
And I think that's an incredibly.
You look like you don't fuck around about Aramonga Sensei.
What's happened is culturally to people in this country is they've tried to make their lives better. I mean, you suddenly reminded me of a kind of story that I had as a junior barrister. I'd spent my first year, I'd prosecuted and defended and not lost a single criminal case in the first year. So as a consequence of that, I was taken to a bar around the corner from the criminal justice main courts, and it was Benjamin Stillingfleet's, I think it was called. I'm not sure it's still there anymore. And I was introduced to one of the greatest barristers of his time, George Carman, by my pupil master, as we called him. And he goes to George in his very posh voice. George, I'd like to introduce you to another Mancunian like yourself, who's done incredibly well. He's great at the bar in crime. And George Carman turns around to look at me, and he's surrounded by a whole group of people, all fawning all over this great barrister. I'm not getting him rat tail. Fuck you, dude. And he says, "What's your name?" Again, equally in a posh.
Dude, this is like fucking unbearable content. Like, is he saying anything? Is he gonna say anything?
And I said, and I still had my Manc accent. I said, "It's Stephen Wolfe from Manchester." Although I'm probably sounding Scouse now. I'm going to get killed by my family for doing that.
Are you afraid of cutting your hair? Because as soon as you do, the back of your neck will get a massive sunburn from the orange light behind you. It's not an orange light, it's just like a standard lamp.
And he turns around to me, and his only words to me were, "If you want to go far at the bar, lose that."
I think I need to get a different lamp, though. I need to get a lamp with like a shade on it.
Accent, boy, lose that accent.
Diffuse a bit more.
And that kind of privilege,
maybe wrap it in diffusing silk as
doing
well.
You down because of where you came from. That's the sort of level of suffering that we've had from those who've had to work in the pits to those who've tried to climb out. Does that count? Is that going to be ignored?
Yes.
And I think that you're right. It will be ignored because it's not relevant to their agenda.
Exactly. I think it has to do a lot with the left.
And it's about fucking agenda, dude. They're just trying to handle the prison system in the best way possible. They're trying to bring fairness to the prison system, make sure people are treated equally, and also limit the amount of people we're putting in prison because our prisons are fucking full. And just endlessly putting people in prison for stupid shit is just not. It's not helping anyone. It's just creating an insane burden on the taxpayer.
It's back to the traditional working class. I think Lenin himself said that unless there's a vanguard party that is going to tell the workers what their true interests are.
Kuihman, don't do shit all day, especially now the set is finished. And this twit can't rock down to Snipper Clippers and get that fucking mullet sheared. The audacity of this heap. Dude, why are you doing me like that? Why the fuck are you doing me like that? I sleep from like 11 a.m., 12 p.m. to 7 p.m., 8 p.m. That's not very good hours, given I'm very tired in the morning, as in the morning by the clock, not when I wake up, the morning by the clock. Given I'm very tired in the morning and don't want to fucking talk to people, especially fucking hairdressers. Like that, it's not easy for me to organize and carry out a haircut.
They're going to develop at most a syndicalist consciousness, and they're going to choose capitalism, not communism. And after I think when the more communism got discredited and actual socialism got discredited, the left started focusing on in the 60s in
if you want, I can come to the hairdresser with you, Kuihman.
Universities. And then they I think they're in a position, right, where they say we've lost the native working class, so they're going to opt for foreign people.
And your point is incredibly proven with the statistics.
Yeah, this guy's Greek. This guy is Greek.
Over the weekend that showed that when you look at the particular parties' support, Labour is now being supported by the wealthiest individuals in this country at a higher end, the middle-aged groups and those who've gone to university. So they're saying that Labour supports the rich and the clever. I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't necessarily say that everybody who went to university is clever, but there we go.
Yeah, from my experience, it's
certainly the case. But they love that, and that feeds into this arrogance of a kind of a snobbish kind of view, looking down upon those below me who don't understand the issues. And I find that patronising, and it's exactly what your point is raised on that.
Thanks. So I think there are two interpretations of what is going on here. The first, which I find completely unlikely, is that Labour actually has an issue with the two-tier justice system, which I don't think it's a particular.
They would actually have a problem with it if it was really a two-tier justice system. Now, they don't even want the appearance of it being two-tier, so they're happy to do what you guys want. But yeah, they would obviously be against an actual two-tier justice system. That would be if people were being treated unequally due to the letter of the law, where it was saying basically white people get worse treatment than brown people. If that was the case, they would obviously care about that and be against that. Obviously. Because most of them are white. They have white families. They have white friends. They would obviously be against oppressing white people. But that's not what was happening. That's why no one with any sense was upset about it. It's just like borderline. I almost said borderline child murderer, but it's not. He's more like the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, you know, like Robert Jenrick, like that type of person is only scumfuck, wretched, lying pieces of shit who hate humanity and want people to suffer, like Robert Jenrick, who pretended to care about this. So now everyone else has to kowtow to the absolute most low IQ dregs that still support the Tory party or the entirety of Reform supporter base, who are upset about this, thanks to Robert Jenrick being a lying, child-catching piece of shit.
Really credible as a hypothesis. And the second one is that basically they are in bed with them. And they are trying to... And the question there becomes, why are they doing so? Well, part of it is because they want to approach elements of the other voters, groups of voters they think they have alienated. That's why we see Keir Starmers starting banging the drum of anger against illegal migration right now. So what they could be...
He's right, though. I can't stand the working class in the UK. Okay, thank you, monkey prick. Thank you.
...doing is working together, having people within the judiciary proposing, basically discrediting the judiciary within, in the eye of the public mind. That's in public consciousness, pardon me. And that makes people being much more prone towards government control, extra government control, because they say, well, look at the judiciary, all of them are crazy and they are harming society. So the only way to solve this is by erasing the checks and balances that the judiciary poses to the government and opt for a much stronger executive. In which case, the question is, what are we going to make of... Wait, where is the link? I don't have... Well, I don't have the link there. It's not there, but it doesn't matter. Keir Starmer has kneeled before for the BLM cause. He has expressed sympathy for all the woke, cause.
He kneeled for BLM. He kneeled for BLM. Shut up. Yeah, it's retarded. theatre virtue signaling shit, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, he's right. He's saying, guys, I'm with you. I'm with you, lefties. I'm with you, lefties. I care about black people. Yeah, that's all it is. It's retarded virtue signaling. Yes, no shit. What, you think it's like an actual statement? You think he's actually like kneeling to black people? Like Keir thinks that black Americans should run the UK? Like he's actually kneeling before black Americans? He's like, whoa, black Americans, you're so much better than white British people. I think you should take over. That's what you think? Do you think is happening? Like seriously, what is the argument here?
We've talked extensively about two-tier policing, reporting,
yeah,
and
BNWO Starmer.
The examples are too many. You can just click on any video of this link to where we're talking about the two-tier. But
I mean, we did
fuck two-tier justice. We on BNWO hours. Let's go.
Yeah, but what I will say is that apart from individual examples, the whole issue is any person who supports woke progressivism is supporting a two-tier society. Because
dude, BNWO is how we combat Sharia law. Just implement full, large-scale BNWO to fill the cultural power vacuum before Sharia takes over.
Woke progressivism is all about mitigating so-called historical inequalities by means of differential treatment.
Jew pushing BNWO, day ending in Y, okay?
Differential treatment means two-tier treatment. So if one is promoting wokeness, one is promoting differential treatment and two-tier society.
I think Starmer's doing two things simultaneously. He's, as you say, empowering the government over the judiciary, but he's also stealing Nigel Farage's two best talking points. He's basically taking immigration and the two-tier justice system, both of which I think ordinary people can see with their own eyes are massive problems, and he's sort of containing them. He's taking the steam out of the sails to try and tank reform in the polls.
Breaking news. Mark Kern, Grums, found age 58, found in critical condition at his own residence. Several large hammers were found at the scene. Investigators discovered a computer with an unfinished game on it.
Because at the minute they're a real threat to Labour, aren't they?
I think it's interesting he's doing this just before the local elections, where those local elections have been permitted to go ahead, which feeds into another story of where we're all going about controlling people's views. But when I look at this two-tier system that they're creating, the two-tier politics, that is straight out of the book of communism. It's straight out of Stalinism. It's all about removing the elites who are in power then, the kings, the knights, the barons, whoever they may be, wherever they are in the world, and replacing them with our lot. Yep. Now, our lot gets...
What just happened in America? What just happened in America? What's he describing here? What's he describing here? He's saying this is happening in the UK. He's saying Keir's doing that. That's his argument right now.
The house.
You got to be fucking joking.
Nice sinecure job and pension for the right. And you lot, who we said we were helping, you're still in the same place as you were before. And that's what the public's understanding. They realise it doesn't matter who's flipping over at the moment. We're still where we are, and we're not getting any better.
And at the end of the day, I think it's institutions matter, but people are in charge of institutions.
Yes.
So whether people now focus on institutions and the judiciary and the executive.
Who's the guy from the cartoon who Kuihman is trying to look like, dude?
At the end of the day,
what cartoon? What cartoon? Please tell me.
Entrusted with guarding those institutions. Mm-hmm. And I think, for instance, people not constantly talk about the ECHR to say why people shouldn't be deported. The ECHR doesn't say people shouldn't be deported unconditionally.
Ratatouille.
No,
he doesn't say that.
Doesn't it? It gives you the opportunity to remove it. It gives you the chance to do so.
So it's people.
Poland, for example, they did pretty well, didn't they, without any of that sort of stuff, and they're within the EU, and in many ways they're doing much better than a lot of other European countries for it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, tell us whether you think that Labour actually has an issue with two-tier society or not.